Well, welcome everyone. I've got another fantastic episode of 100% on, not in your business. My name is Steve Stump, and on this show, we talk about the challenges business owners have working on their business, getting out of the weeds of the day-to-day and working on their business and not in their business. Because when they can work on their business, they will grow their business and their customer count and their sales, and ultimately meet the vision for their business that they had originally had when they opened up the doors. Today, I'm super excited. I've got JB Harrington with me today. JB is a small business consultant with Legal Shield. And believe it or not, a lot of business owners delve into kind of handling their own legal issues. So I thought this would be a fantastic episode with JB to talk about some of the challenges there that business owners could potentially have. But JB, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Certainly. Well, so you work with a lot of small businesses, and I guess I'm curious first, what are some of those challenges you see those businesses have when it comes to their own legal matters?
Oftentimes is contracts in between, whether it be the place that they're leasing from, or contracts with the customers, or contracts with their vendors. It may not be 100% protective of them, and it gives loopholes for others to take advantage of. For example, one of my customers in Plano did some work for a customer. He was in a savvy attorney that did not let them know that he was an attorney, and found a loophole to get out of paying out the rest of that contract. And so moving forward, they had heard about what we do. I was able to get them set up, and we were able to help them get their contracts set in place to help protect them, right, so that wouldn't happen to them again.
That makes total sense. And just on my own experience, owning a brick and mortar, you've got lots of contracts that you're executing, especially early on. And it's overwhelming, right, to review all those and do you fully understand it? So it makes a lot of sense why you would want to have an attorney in your corner, making sure that your best interests are reflected in that particular contract or the many contracts that you end up executing early on. Well, so tell the audience a little bit about just your background and Legal Shield, and what Legal Shield does for small businesses.
Okay, yeah. So to back the story up, it goes back to 97. I owned my own general contracting business from 97 to 2015. And, oftentimes, as business owners, we feel like, attorneys are way too expensive. The response time is very slow, because the speed of business happens faster than what the attorneys feel like they can respond to. And so during those 18 years, I didn't really use attorneys for things that I probably should have. In 2010, I wished I had used attorneys before I got in business with some people, and they took advantage of it. It was very costly after the fact and stuff like that. So fast forward, before I sold my business in 2015, I had this, I was introduced to this service by my cousin. And when I started to use the services, like they did contract reviews and things like that, and helped me save $30,000 on my first contract they did for me, didn't charge me anything extra to do that, all in the same day. Business owners were thinking, how am I making that happen, and how much am I paying? I'm like, well, this is how much I'm paying. And they're like, how do I get it? And so the more I kept doing that, I'm like, well, maybe it's time for me to share this with business owners and sell my business, my contracting business, so I can spend more time helping business owners understand what's available to grow their businesses, so they're not spending so much time freaking out about things.
Right. So you experienced it firsthand as a business owner, kind of the pitfalls of managing your own legal matters. And then you saw the alternative side of that, which is when you get that legal representation, what the difference for you, it made a difference of $30,000. So that's pretty interesting story. You not only saw the need, but you benefited from it. And now you realize, hey, I can help other business owners not make those mistakes that you had made. Awesome. So Legal Shield's been around much longer than 97, but that's kind of your background. How long has Legal Shield been around?
Legal Shield was introduced in August of 1972.
Wow.
Launched. Yep.
So what's that? 50, almost 50
well,
years.
Be 50 years
next year. Yeah.
It's 49 years this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So been around for a very long time. Well,
yes, sir.
One of the things we were talking about as we were getting ready for this interview was the challenges any business owner has that maybe isn't brick and mortar and doing cash payments at the cash register, but is responsible for collecting payments owed to them. And I'm curious what your experience is. I'm sure as a general contractor, you had those same struggles, but what you experienced and what you've seen other businesses experience in that respect, and how do they address the collections of the monies that are owed to them?
Yeah, fantastic question. So as you alluded to already, but during those 18 years, yes, their customers are slow to pay. There's some that happens and things like that. And sometimes, again, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes customers are savvy enough to take advantage of those contracts if you don't really have them, in place to protect you. Anyway, when it comes to slow to pay customers, we do have what we call our law firms like to write out what we call motivational letters to help them get collected money from their customers, if that makes sense. So we have different price points for our businesses, from different size businesses or whatever. You can get up to, 10 collection letters per month, depending on where you're at, or 15, depending on how big and smaller your company is, if you have slow to pay customers, if that makes any sense. And so to give you one of my examples, I had one roofing company that had 5 customers that were very slow to pay, got our services with our law firm, called up the law firm, 5 different collection letters went out to the customers, and all of a sudden 5 responses came back saying, I'll make a payment, or can I make a payment arrangement, or whatever the case was. The beauty about that is it got a immediate response, more so than a lien against the house or a letter from the company or something like that, right? And it did not cost anything more than what they pay monthly with us.
Right. Wow. So they pay what they pay for the service, and then they use the service in that particular example, sending out those 5 collection notices. And I can just imagine for the roofing company, one, now they don't have money tied up with the customer where they're not paying, and 2, the owner didn't have to try to draft those collection notices, get them reviewed, send them out. Who knows how effective they would have been. So that's a great story where he let the attorneys draft it, send it out. And I guess it was, what did you say? Yep. Motivational enough. It was motivational enough to have
motivational letters. Yes.
Yeah.
And okay. So the good thing about our business plans, our owners can dedicate someone to be a user of the plan. So like if they have a secretary or office admin to take care of collection letters and things like that, the owner can dedicate that office admin to be able to talk to the law firm on their behalf, while the business owner is focused on still continuing to grow his business and the things that he or she is good at. Right.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's what I also like about that.
Right. So the owner's not having to be the one in contact with the attorneys. It could be the office manager or the sales manager, but giving them the direct access that's needed. That's a great service.
Yep.
A lot of the things that I talk with my guest always centers around attracting and retaining the employees they need so that the owner can just develop them to run the business the way the owner would, but then allow the owner to go take on other activities that are going to contribute to, scaling the business, growing the business. Talk a little bit about how businesses can use the Legal Shield benefits to attract and retain employees. I think that's a really nice opportunity for businesses to understand about.
Yeah, and so that's going into the benefits that we can offer for their employees, right? The ID Shield, and then their identity theft and legal plan for them too as well.
Right. And so the way it works is if I've got 20 employees, those employees can opt into the plan if they want to, or I, as the employer, could purchase it for my employees. And now they've got access to their own legal team. They even have, to your point, identity theft protection, which is a huge deal in nowadays. So for employees to have that level of protection on their identity, should it ever be stolen, is a big benefit that I see small businesses have an opportunity for.
Yeah, and because look at the time lost that it takes to restore your identity. How long does it take to restore your passport or restore your credit card information? Some of that is a little bit faster nowadays. Well, what if your medical insurance is stolen by somebody else? How long does that take you to make all those phone calls? What if your driver's license shows up in South Carolina? I know a guy that his driver's license was being used in South Carolina and got a ticket that he wasn't there, but got a warrant for his arrest because he didn't pay for a ticket that he didn't really receive personally, but somebody else was using his information. And how long it took him to get that taken care of? It took him too many hours away from work. Productivity, or the time of work is just not being at work. Less productive time is not being spent there, and that upsets the employer because not enough stuff is happening. And like for one of my other examples, the worst case that I've heard so far, that has a family in Michigan had this identity theft. Their identity was compromised. Took our services 350 hours to restore their identity, and it did not cost the family any more than what their membership cost. So let me repeat that again. It took our services 350 hours to restore that family's identity because it was compromised that bad, where they didn't have to take time away from work to do that. They could stay focused at their work and still earn an income for their family so they can live life without any worries.
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah, that's huge. In the benefit space, especially with health insurance, I talk with my clients a lot about the concept of absenteeism. And what that means is if the employee can't get well, like they've got a cold and maybe a fever, but they're under the weather, and they don't have health insurance, they'll typically go into work because they don't want to take time off for being sick. They want time off for family and fun. But while they're there, their productivity is less than 100%. And I could see the exact same absenteeism effect on that person if something was over their head, like their identity had been stolen, their credit had been trashed, and that's in the back of their mind. Plus they're taking phone calls and lunch breaks, smoke breaks, whatnot, to be able to try to handle that. So that is a big benefit for business owners to be able to say, hey, if it happens to you, I want you productive at work, and this service is going to take care of you. So that's a really nice benefit for the employees. And obviously the owner, if they're having to spend their time doing that kind of stuff, then they're not delivering for their business. And gosh, the amount of money they could, yeah.
Yeah, and it's time wasted away and not having. It's a big loss for both the employer and the employee.
Right.
because of all that.
Yeah.
And that's Forbes magazine had rated us the number one identity theft product for employee benefits
Oh, wow.
not too long ago. Yeah.
I did not know that.
So yeah, that's pretty good. I like it. It's been helpful to bring awareness to employees and see the benefits of what we offer. And the best part about it is, if it was a family of 12, it doesn't cost them anything extra.
So regardless of the size of the family, it costs what it costs.
Yeah, unless they have a family of 13, then they'll have to add that extra person. But who has a family that size?
Right. Not many nowadays. Definitely in the olden days. Well, cool. This has been very helpful, JB. As you are out there talking with business owners, is there one piece of advice that you typically share with them on growing their business, getting to that point where they're out of those weeds and really working on the most valuable parts of their business? Is there one piece of advice that you often provide to them that you want to share?
Have someone review your contracts is probably the biggest thing, about anything, with your leases or your customers or your vendors and things like that. Again, I think that's the biggest piece that I would start with, because I think that's the most underused service that we have, that people should utilize more often, is get their contracts reviewed before they sign off on them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you said something like, the speed of business is just very, very, rapid. So if you got to close on that deal, you want to close on that deal quickly. So to have somebody right there, basically on retainer, ready for you to just send the next review over, can keep that speed of business going. So it makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Because most attorneys, usually respond within 3 days on average, whereas we changed the game on that, and our response time is within 4 business hours.
Oh, wow. Within hours versus days. That's a big, big difference.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, then how would my listeners get to learn more about you and Legal Shield? Where would they go to learn more about you, get in contact with you?
The best way always for me is my cell number. Texting me at 405-417-1384, and I'll slow down, 405-417-1384. That's usually the best way to contact me nowadays, because I mean, email is also good for me, but that's like once a day for me, and that's JB Scotch, like Scotch liquor, Scotch tape, 39@gmail.com.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, perfect. This has been fantastic, JB. I really appreciate you just spending some time with me today, talking to us about legal services and why it's important for any business to make sure that they're not trying to manage those themselves, so that the owner's working on the business and not in the business. JB,
Right.
anything you want to leave with the crowd?
Be proactive before it gets expensive.
That is good advice. Thank you very much, JB, for being with me today.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.